Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to start a new series on this channel called My New Daily Driver. It's essentially a continuation of the ship comparison series where I pit two ships up against each other to help you decide which should be your next daily driver. Now, the reason why I'm kind of evolving this series is because it is difficult to compare certain ships that are a little bit different. And so the context of this series is to help you, the buyer, decide what ship you should choose based on the gameplay that you're most interested in. So the gameplay is the key feature here. And today we're comparing the Paladin against the constellation Andromeda. And the gameplay that we're looking to accomplish here is bounties, right? You want a ship, a gunship that helps you complete PvE content and be successful at it. So, for the player who's looking for a ship specifically to do PvE content, different bounties, what ship should you go for? So, let's start with the constellation Andromeda here. It is going to set you back 240 buckaroos. It has SCU capacity of 96 and a crew of 4, max crew of 4. Then we have the Paladin. It's coming in at $350. It has maximum cargo capacity on grid of 4, but of course it has off-grid storage in the armory, and it has a maximum crew of 4. Again, now in terms of vehicle support, that's really not too much of a concern in this comparison, again, because the context of how we're comparing these ships as, PvE content focused players, right? Ground vehicles, in my personal opinion, serve less of a purpose, but obviously the constellation Andromeda is going to excel over the Paladin at that. In the scenario that you wanted to run bunkers or something like that, you could park far away and drive a vehicle in. I've seen people fit a Pulse inside a Paladin. These small hover bikes can basically fit in just about any ship, so you can buy a cheaper spaceship to accomplish those goals. So now I think the conversation begins to get a little bit more interesting when we start to look at the numbers. But before we get into that, I do want to make a comment about these ships' design and their interior. Now, as many of you know, the Constellation was one of the more older ships that CIG has designed, one of the earliest ships that was actually available to pledge in this game, and it has had updates since its first iteration, like many other older ships, the Aurora and the Mustang. But the Aurora is getting an update to potentially a new gold standard, right? And many people are speculating that the Constellation series might get such a treatment and kind of bring it up in line with other RSI ships like the Zeus, like the Polaris, and the upcoming Perseus. Now, I don't know about any of that, and CIG hasn't confirmed anything, but that being said, what most people consider this ship to be is a quote-unquote hallway spaceship. Essentially, it is just a tube. It has, cargo. It has rudimentary amenities. It is a very simple layout, and in most people's opinion, its design is kind of antiquated. Now, functionally, it doesn't lack anything, right? You have beds to log out in, you have personal storage, um, all the elevators and everything works inside the ship. So you will be able to accomplish all of your goals with this interior and this ship design. But of course, I think probably the biggest lacking feature of this ship is the glass canopy and the struts. This is a major pain point for a lot of people, and if you're using a ship as a daily, it needs to be comfortable to fly, and its visibility might be a deal breaker for you. Now, if it's not, then it should be a major consideration, in my personal opinion, because its numbers are so good compared to the Paladin. Now, for the Paladin, its interior is amazing, right? It is a much more modern ship. You don't have to deal with as many elevators. It has that manual staircase inside. It has all of its components and fuses and whatnot in place already. A lot of the animations are, very much up to date. Again, it has rooms for the crew. It has an armory. It has, dedicated kitchenette kind of dining area, engineering area. It is very well laid out, and the flow through the ship makes it feel more immersive, I would say. So if you're looking to go through a ship and kind of experience it, it is a very nice experience. That being said, a lot of people are saying that it's easy to get in and out of, but in reality, it only has one entrance and exit, and there are a lot of doors between the entrance and the cockpit, versus the Andromeda, which you go up the elevator and you're basically right there at the captain's seat. The flow from going from the pilot seat to exiting the ship is much easier on the Constellation from that front. You don't have to walk through the entire ship to get to the pilot seat. And again, you have a significant amount more of cargo. So you can use this ship for more use cases than just a PvE machine. You can really utilize this ship for just about anything you want in the game. So now let's go over to DPS calculator and take a look at the numbers. All right, now we're here in DPS calculator, but I want to make it very clear, if you're intending to use this ship in kind of a dual scenario, you're playing with other people, you have a buddy that you play with very frequently, you're going to have a lot more DPS with Paladin. Again, if you're a space dad and you play with your kid a lot, the Paladin is a great option, because again, you have a lot of added DPS when you get somebody in that turret gunner seat. But if you're playing solo, the conversation is a little bit different. And I don't want to use dual boxing as an example, because that's not the intended way that CIG has for you to use the ship, although people may consider doing that. That's just something that you have to decide to do on your own. So now let's take a look at these numbers, because I think they're very interesting. And starting off with weapons, the Andromeda is no slouch. 2420 stock DPS with those CF557 Galderines. Now you go over to the Paladin. Paladin has a lot of DPS with that turret, right? A lot more, 3975. But if we go over here, I'm just going to take off these guns for a second. What you actually have as a pilot is those 4x4 rhinos. Of course, you can switch out those guns to attritions or whatever you want, but the DPS is cut down considerably, because remember, it's 4x4s versus the Andromeda's 4x5s. Okay, so the Paladin, if you're flying the ship solo, does have less DPS than the Andromeda. Now let's move on to missiles. In terms of missiles, here you have 28,113, and in terms of the Constellation Andromeda, you have 81,305. The Andromeda has a lot of missiles, a lot of good sized missiles, so you have a lot more damage with the Andromeda. The next thing we're going to take a look at is shields. Now with the Paladin, you have 1 size 3 shields, but you're coming with the industrial grade C stronghold shields for the Paladin. Right off the bat, this is a great size 3 shield for this ship, and it's coming in with a lot of protection. Now, if you compare that to the Andromeda, as stock, you have a lot less. right? You have 48,000. But because it's also a size 3, you can upgrade this shield to the stronghold, and you would have the exact same shield health as the Paladin. So that's my recommendation, to upgrade the Andromeda shields, and then you don't have to worry about anything. They're on the same playing field. In terms of power plants, the Andromeda has 2 size 2s, and the Paladin has 3 size 2s. So you're going to get the ability to have a little bit more power, and the reason for that, I believe, is the Paladin's turret. Right, that's probably going to be a little bit more power hungry. So the Paladin has a little bit more power. In terms of coolers, you have 2 size 2s for the Paladin and 2 size 2s for the Andromeda. But another thing that's kind of interesting in here is that you have as stock a pretty good quantum drive for the Andromeda. You have the Bolon here, which gives you a maximum quantum speed of 262,000 meters a second. With the Paladin, you have the Sparkfire with a stock SCM speed of 171,000, right? But it's again a same size 2. You can upgrade it and get a lot more speed out of it, right? So that's probably my recommendation with the Paladin. The first upgrade you're going to want to make is to that stock quantum drive. And with the Andromeda, your first upgrade, in my personal opinion, would be to that shield. So upgrade the shield on the Andromeda, upgrade your quantum drive on the Paladin. Now let's take a look at some intangibles. These are things that you can't change. These are things that the developers have decided to balance. And basically, we, the players, what CIG's win. So Paladin is a gunship, right? Maximum SCM speed is 175 meters. Okay, the Andromeda is a multi-role gunship. Maximum SCM speed is 190. So the Andromeda is faster. Then we have maximum boost speed for the Paladin at 340, and maximum boost speed for the Andromeda at 390. Again, the Andromeda is faster. Backwards speed 190 for the Andromeda and 200 for the Paladin. So the Paladin is faster backwards. Maximum nav speed for the Paladin is 950. Maximum nav speed for the Andromeda is 1,000. So the Andromeda is faster there. Then we have pitch layout on roll 25, 21, 45 for the Andromeda. And then for the Paladin 23, 19, 45. So the Andromeda is a little bit faster. Again, with boost speeds here, 28, 23, 54 versus 30, 25, 54. So the Andromeda is a little bit faster. Again, then in terms of hit points, for the Andromeda, it's 180,000 for the Andromeda and 149,000 for the Paladin. So the Andromeda has a little bit more hit points, but the distribution of that is not certain here on DPS calculator. You're going to have to go into a little bit more details on that on your own. Mass is 500,000 on the Paladin and 386 on the Andromeda. So the Andromeda is a little bit lighter. Hydrogen capacity is 66 SUs on the Andromeda and 61 SUs on the Paladin. So the Andromeda has a little bit more hydrogen fuel. Quantum fuel is 3.85 on the Paladin and 4.1 on the Andromeda. So Andromeda has a little bit more quantum fuel. Expedite fee is 6750 on the Andromeda and 12,940 on the Paladin. So basically the expedited fee on the Paladin is twice the Andromeda, thereabout, and you have the times there. So there's a lot of numbers that I just threw at you guys, and again, these are the intangibles, the things that can't change, but also the things that your mileage may vary when you play the game. Because again, at the end of the day, some people have a bigger problem with the struts and feel like the Paladin would have better visibility, a little bit faster, yaw speed might not really mean that much to you in your own personal gameplay, but being able to see the enemy better and not have, you know, struts obstructing you, that might make the difference between landing shots and feeling like you're missing. So what I think it really comes down to is not just personal preference, not just price, not just numbers, but the way these ships feel. Right now, the constellation Andromeda is kind of the gunship juggernaut. In most scenarios, it is an absolutely awesome option to go with. And another thing that you have to consider right now is that you can get the Andromeda in game. The Paladin is still on its exclusivity cycle, so the only way to acquire it right now is through the pledge store. So in my personal opinion, I think the Andromeda still hasn't been dethroned just yet. I think, of course, the Paladin is a great offering. I think it's a very exciting ship, but the Andromeda, in my personal opinion anyway, is still the king if you're a solo PvE bounty hunter, right? Or if you want to do the multi-role gameplay. It is an excellent ship to just get the job done. Again, your mods may vary. You might have an issue with the struts. You might have the issue with, you know, the way it flies in the atmosphere. Let me know what you guys think about this comparison format in the comments down below, and let me know what other ships you would like to see go head to head. That's going to be it for me in this video, you guys. I want to thank you for hanging out with me again. And like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Salut!